Welcome to the Over 40 Alpha Podcast with your host, Funk Roberts.
We are live, and welcome to the Over 40 Alpha Podcast. This is episode number 155, and I'm your host, Funk Roberts, former professional athlete turned master metabolic trainer, certified hormone and testosterone specialist, and a fitness guru for men in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond. And I'm your host, and this podcast is specifically designed for you, the man in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, where we talk about ways to naturally increase testosterone. We talk about mindset and mental health strategies. We talk about workouts, nutrition, recovery, sleep, supplementation, and health issues. And on today's episode, we've got the Dad Bod Sculpture in the house. And you may be asking, who's the Dad Bod Sculpture and why is he coming into this house? Well, I'm really excited about today's podcast. You're going to love it. We have Dane Palarino, who is an accomplished entrepreneur, and he's a founder of Palarino Partners. Now, this, throughout all of his years in, as an entrepreneur, building a highly competitive software company, headhunting company in the software industry, scaling his business, 7-figure businesses, but he also has kids. And so Dane, even though, and you're going to hear his story, but even though he was successful in the business world, he still wasn't happy. And, at 41, he faced, health issues, he faced personal issues, and that led him on a journey to transform his body, transform his health, transform his life, and even help him to now create Dad Bod Sculptures, where he helps other fathers, other men who have to juggle family, who have to juggle their careers, and truly not just transforming them physically, because that's always great, but it's everywhere else, right? Like it's the self-development, it's the confidence, it's the mental fortitude, and just being around, being there to be there for your family, right? Provide, protect, procreate, to be the provider, the protector, the procreate for your family, the king of your kingdom. And so I'm excited about this podcast episode. You guys are going to love this podcast episode. Dane and I really dive into struggles that men have, as fathers when they got a career, but when you reach a certain age, things don't work the same, right? You don't feel the same. You don't have the same energy. You don't look the same. And that can drive you down a very deep path. But having people like Dane at Dad Bod Sculptures to help guide you through, to help set up a plan, to help keep you accountable, to help respect your time and create something that's going to help you get it done in the time that you have, right? To keep you accountable. Because when you have that accountability, when you have the knowledge knowing why you're doing certain things and how it's going to help you change, and when you have a program that respects your time, or sometimes lack thereof, that's what's going to get you that motivation to get results. That's going to give you the motivation to level up 2.0, to make those important changes that happen to us physiologically as we get older, but start to rapidly happen to us, chronic health issues, etc., as we age. And so this is a fantastic conversation, and I'm actually endorsing Dane's program, because Dane does something that I don't do. I don't do the one-on-one coaching, right? The one-on-one fitness coaching where, I'm there to help track everything and set specific programs, personalized programs up for you based on your time, based on, where you're at. And, it's important to have somebody, if you're struggling, if you're always going through that struggle, motivation, lack of, you don't have time, you've tried all of these different programs, maybe you even tried my program, and maybe it's worked for a bit, but, you kind of, because there's not that accountability in a sense that you can send a message to me and say, hey, I'm struggling with this, and have me come back, okay, do this, or hey, this happened to me today, how should I navigate through this? Whether it's food, whether it's a situation that will cause you to make bad decisions, having somebody in your corner not 24/7, but, throughout the day to help you navigate, specifically at the beginning when things are new, while setting up something specific for you is extremely, extremely important. It's like when I was training as an athlete, whether it was volleyball, I'm going to use Muay Thai, because that to me, that was it's a better analogy, because when I was training for my Muay Thai fight, it was very important for me to be able to reach out to my Ajahn or my crew, throughout the day, to get feedback, right, on ways I'm feeling, what I should be doing, what nutrition I should be having, because, when you're training for a fight, you got to, having someone in your corner to help you through the very first 2, 3, 4 months, then you have all the knowledge, then you have the confidence, then you have the motivation because you're seeing the changes, and then you can either take it on your own or you can continue down that journey of leaning in, but you may not be leaning into your coach, or for me, it was my crew, as much as I needed to, but knowing that you have somebody there for you is super important, because a lot of us men, specifically as fathers, specifically when we've got a family, a career, and what other things going on, we don't have that support that we can lean to. There are people that want to help us, but sometimes we have an ego and don't want to accept that help. And sometimes it is a lonely place for us guys, right? So it's important that we find someone who can help guide us and be there to support us through our journey. And so some people don't need that. Some people can literally I've got guys that have been in my program for 3, 4, 5 years and continue to get results, right? They've learned what they need and now are self-motivated to continue to level up. But then there's a lot of men who don't have that and just may not have the time. And so if you go to over40shred.com/Dad Bod Sculptor, sculptor with an O, by the way, sculptors, right? Over40shred.com/Dad Bod Sculptors. Go in there, click that link, fill out whatever information Dane's telling you to do, and get Dane as your coach, because I guarantee you are going to love this guy. You're going to love everything he's about, his values, his beliefs, his story, and just the way he creates things and systems to help what he used to help himself, because he has his own hero journey. And he also understands you. I'm a father, but my kids are in their 20s and 30s, right? If you have younger children or teenagers, this is perfect for you. This is perfect for you. So go to over40shred.com/Dad Bod Sculptures. Click that link. That link, I have a partner, a little mini partnership with Dane. But I endorse everything, because this podcast episode, you're going to learn so much. A lot of things you're going to be like, oh yeah, I've heard that before. But you're going to learn a lot. And when you have men like this who are leading the charge through their own journey, that's who you want to lean into. Non-judgmental, but guys who want to actually help because they know where you're at. I know where you're at if you're struggling. And he knows where you're at when you're struggling. So I'm excited about this podcast. I hope you guys love this podcast. Dad Bod Sculptures. Go to over40shred.com/Dad Bod Sculptures. Once you hear this, if you are in that, I've been thinking about it, I'm thinking about a coach or what have you, this should make the decision extremely easy for you, specifically because his knowledge and his systems and everything that he has in place is exactly what you probably will need to take you from where you are today to where you want to be. So with that, I hope you enjoy the podcast, and I'll see you on the other side. What's going on, my boys? What's going on? You know what? Let me say something right now, okay? There's been something that's been glorified way too long. If you've been following me, you probably know exactly what I'm about to say. That's the dad bod. And the dad bod is not cool. The dad bod is not a badge of honor. The dad bod is certainly not something that we should be embracing. In fact, it's a sign that your health is on the decline. It's literally killing you. And you may want to laugh it off and, oh yeah, it's okay. I got the belly, the beer belly, what have you. But I'm telling you, man, the dad bod is absolutely killing you. And that's why I'm super pumped to have our boy Dane Palarino on the show today, because he's on a mission to help us ditch that dad bod. He's on a mission to transform your dad bod because he did it himself. So let's welcome Dane Palarino to the podcast. What's up, my brother?
What's up, brother? Thanks for having me, Funk. Great intro, bro.
Nice. Thank you. Well, let's dive in because, I read a little bit of your bio and we have some similarities there. So why don't you tell us what the origin story behind, becoming a Dad Bod Sculpture?
Yeah, man. So just backstory is I'm from Connecticut. I live in Charleston, South Carolina. Essentially, I've been an entrepreneur since 2010. The first 11 years of my career up until 2021, I've been running headhunting firms for hypergrowth software companies. So predominantly CEOs, venture capital firms. I've helped them build out their executive level teams. And then my second firm specialized in building world-class product management teams for these hypergrowth SaaS companies. So think venture capital-backed firms that needed product leaders, head of products, VP of products, chief product officers. So this backstory is it took me 7 years to build my first 7-figure business. And then it took me 3 years to build the second one. They were both in the headhunting space. Now, throughout this time, I had been married and I had always been active to some degree. Like I always thought I was eating healthy and was health conscious and was training to some degree, but I didn't have structure in the training. It was calisthenics, it was body weights, it was sometimes group classes, and there was just no real structure and plan. And so essentially in building that second firm, I had compromised my health. I had exchanged my success for the firm for my health. And I looked like a lot of my clients, so I was comfortable. I fit in, right? And what had happened was I started to recognize that I wasn't happy anymore. I had spent over 10 years building a firm that I ideally wanted, which was one that kind of went from 0 inbound leads to 30 leads a month. This was high ticket, high stakes headhunting. So the range of sale was anywhere between $50,000 to over $100,000. And it took over 10 years to build that practice. But all of a sudden, there was a year where I just didn't want to get out of bed anymore. I wasn't excited. I had a 3-year-old. I had a 1-year-old. And I had found that I was no longer enjoying life. And I had lost that kind of pizzazz. Now, I was doing, at the time, my protocol was I was getting up whenever I wanted. I was going to work. I was fasting all day. And then I would do group theory classes at the end of the day, which is Orange Theory. And then I would train. Then I would come home and kind of eat whatever I wanted. But the stress from work was allowing me to have really no habits at night. I had dropped my discipline in my eating, so I'd eat whatever I wanted. And that included drinking some alcohol, having lots of sugar, and then kind of rinsing and repeating. And the wake-up call for me, dude, was when I had been doing this class for 5 or 6 months, and I had realized I was progressing in the class, so to speak. They tracked your data, and then they said they were going to do this class where they were going to do this transformation contest. And so I was like, all right, yeah, I'll do the transformation contest. And these, 2 younger, fit college dudes were like, all right, man, we're going to do the before picture. And I was like, something just kind of hit me like, oh, you're going to take the picture? And it was like, all right, where are you going to take the picture? And they're like, upstairs. And I'm thinking, man, I hope none of these girls are coming up there like to take this picture with you. So anyway, I went up there, they took that picture. And when they showed it to me, I just did not see that version of myself in the mirror. It was like, whoa, where did this pear body come from? I look like an eggplant. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks, dude. And I was like, how the hell did I get here? I'm fasting all day. I'm eating health conscious. And I just realized I was in a body that I was not comfortable in. And then it just like rewound the tape. And I was like, remembered all these arguments and insecure moments and the way that I was behaving and my energy. And I realized it's because I'm in a body I don't like. I'm not comfortable in my own skin anymore. And so that's when I realized I had a world-class dad bod. and it was like, this is not sustainable. I had a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and I knew it wasn't so much the body, but it was who I was for my family or who I wasn't for them because of the body I was in. So I just set on a mission to personally figure out and solve that problem while I was running that business. And so, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, man, I'm getting goosebumps, because let me ask you a question. I want you to think back to that, that moment when you saw that body, when you looked at that body, because you said something that's very common, I think, for a lot of us guys is we hang on to who we used to be, right? We'll hang on to that guy. When we look in the mirror, we're not really seeing exactly who we are. I used to be a professional athlete. And when I was 39 years old, I had a similar thing where I never looked at my body, by the way, like all this time, like in my late 30s, never looked at my body. Was always had a tank top on. I was big and puffy. I was a puffy muscle, right? Puffy muscle syndrome.
That's right. I was bulking.
Yeah, I was big and puffy, and I was actually shooting workouts on YouTube. Like, you can go on YouTube and see it. But I never looked at my body. I never looked at it until I got called out one day. And how did that make you feel? Like, literally, like, what was that feeling?
I mean, honestly, I wanted to stick my head up so far up my ass and run out that door. I didn't want to show my wife, but then I was angry at my wife. I was like, why wouldn't she tell me I look like this? And then I started replaying. I was having a lot of friction with my wife. Like, I was like, not to get too intimate, but I wasn't having as much intimacy with her. And I was getting frustrated with that. And I was like, then I had realized I wasn't desiring her because I didn't feel like I was a man worthy of desiring her. But I was putting that blame on her. Like, why isn't she wanting to have more intimacy with me? Meanwhile, like, we're raising a 1-year-old, like a 6-month-old, and a 3-year-old. There's very little time for her. And so I was realizing, like, I'm the problem. It's not her. It's that I don't feel good in my skin, and now I'm reflecting that all on her. And so that just kind of stemmed from, like, thinking through all these little fights that we had, and it was like, yeah, you were a baby, little bitch there. Oh, that was your child voice, right? That's because you were insecure. And then I started looking at my clothes, and I was like, I kept buying baggier and baggier clothes. And then I would only revert to, like, 2 outfits that I had to, like, fluff, and they had to be perfect because the way that they fit and they didn't show my gut. And, like, I had cognitive dissonance, essentially. Like, I did not want to face the reality that I had put myself in this body that I was no longer comfortable with. And that was just having the tough conversation, dude. It was like, okay, you need to figure this out. You need to figure out how you got here, number 1. And number 2, admit that you're here. And number 3, put a plan in place. Because I had always built businesses and systems to be successful. So that was it. The reverse engineering began. And I started thinking about, I'm over 35. I'm super busy. I'm not going to be an influencer or a coach or anything. Those were not even on my Richter scale. But it was like, what style of training is optimal for me? Because I no longer felt like a man. I did not feel strong. And that was a big insecurity of mine. 2, I had no control over my eating. I was eating whatever I wanted, and I didn't know how that was impacting my body. 3, I had just terrible self-talk. I had caught myself, man, this tape keeps rewinding. And then I would look at my phone, and I'm like, I haven't taken a selfie in over a year. I had no pictures with my kids. And it wasn't that I wasn't proud of them. I was super proud of them. I was the problem. Dude, when I realized that, I started thinking, like, okay, number 1, what a loser, right? But number 2, there's a way out of this, and start figuring it out. And so I started just unpacking, like, every night, because that other business was successful. I would spend hours on YouTube figuring out the right style of training. Who's the best in the world at sculpting bodies and controlling body composition? And that was bodybuilders. And what's their style of eating? And what are their habits? And so then I started to kind of get this vision of who I wanted to become. And I started slowly changing out all my bad habits for good habits. And then I set some daily non-negotiables. Like, okay, this new version is going to do the complete opposite of what this current version is doing. And let's look at what some of these bad things are. And I laid out like 4 or 5 things. And then I just literally did the opposite of those. And so that kind of became the daily activity for me to build myself up. And I said, I'm not going to be in the body of my dreams tomorrow, but I can start thinking like the man I want to be tomorrow. And that was kind of where my journey began back in 2020, just post-COVID.
Oh, that's really? It started in 2020. How old were you when that started?
I was just about to be 42.
Okay, just so you're 41, again, so another thing too, because the fact that you had the wherewithal to actually unpack, like men, because if you go online, even to this day, unfortunately, there's still not a lot of information for men over 40. It's just over 40, but not as much. Specifically, when I started back, 6-7 years ago for men over 40, there was literally nothing. It was just me and one other guy. But the fact that you were able to unpack all of these things and face the reality, do you think that was from your business sense? Like, you just kind of took, let me take these skills from here that I built up, $1 million business, and put this $1 million skill into my body to make it $1 million body type thing.
Yeah, there was 2 things that were like impactful. One, when I was in college, I was super disciplined. I didn't do a lot of drinking. I didn't do a lot of partying. I had to pay my own way. So it was work and study. And I was blessed that one of my roommates was a Division I baseball player, and he was on track to go pros. So he was super dialed into his nutrition. His body was on point, and he was training. So he saw that I was disciplined and I wasn't drinking. So he had introduced me to the gym. And then he started introducing me to a couple of meals. And I remembered I had adopted that belief. And through the remainder of college and into the early years of my profession, I was super dialed into eating the right way, like low fat, meals, high protein. And it was really a macro-based meal plan. And something in my head, I was like, chicken and rice, motherfucker. It was like, I'm going back to the chicken and rice.
Right.
I was like, I remember that no matter what was going on in my life, I that was something that was reliable. Like there was consistency there, and I was showing up for myself. And I thought, man, I haven't done that in so long. So that was one. And then two was to scale my businesses. I had always had systems. I had known I didn't want to hire hundreds of employees, so I had to figure out systems to scale. So then I said, what is a system that I can implement in my life that incorporates the ability to train my body properly, feed it properly, recover it properly, and make it a lifestyle? And then, oh, by the way, I'm going to get the byproduct of a better body. And so that was it. Yeah. So I started thinking of it like a business. Like, all right, I'm gonna download all this information. I'm gonna apply it into my day as a guinea pig. I'm gonna, what it took me over 3.5 years, I now have condensed down into 12 weeks for guys. So I could have done it a lot quicker if I had a guide or a coach, but I didn't. But that was my journey. I went on this journey, and it was every day. I knew the master plan, so my job was mastering the plan.
Yeah, love it, man. So much like showing up for yourself, creating systems, knowing what you want to become. Because if you know who you want to become, everything you do every day is going to set you up to become that person. Well, it's either going to bring you closer or further away. And at our age, the further, I tell these guys all the time, at this age right now, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, the margin of error is here, man. Like we can't be doing what we did in college, right? Like we can't and then expect to bounce back the next day, come back, still be shredded, still have energy. We can't do, it's not like that anymore. And it's the further away you put yourself by eating horrible foods and what have you, which we'll get into with you, the faster you're on the highway to death. Like it's no longer like, I'm just going to get sick. Like, you're dead, man. You're losing an eye because of diabetes or chopping off an arm. Like, you're dead, man. Dude. Like, so we can't mess around.
No. It's like I had to have macro patience, but micro urgency. Because I knew, I didn't want to just get skinny. I wanted to have muscle. I wanted to have a frame. I wanted to be this physical representation of a strong, powerful man that was disciplined. And I knew, okay, I'm 41, so I don't have all this time, right? Like, there's only a window where I can pack on some real muscle. So every day I had that urgency. It was 7 days a week. I was up and out, and I had a routine, and I trained. And I wasn't worried about all this, overtraining bullshit. It was like, no, man, I'm getting up and going. Like, my body hurts. We're going to work through that. And I was smart about it. That's what I loved about bodybuilding, as opposed to, I love CrossFit because there's a community, but bodybuilding, it was controlled. It was controlled growth. Like, I didn't have to go super one rep maxes like powerlifting. I can control the weight, and I can slowly engage it to put stress on it and to grow it. And then I had to also live the lifestyle to be able to feed it properly and to recover it properly so that it grew the way I wanted. So that meant I had to make better decisions throughout my day, like taking out the sugar, removing the seed oils and the fried foods, removing the alcohol, all things that stop the fat burning and muscle building process. I started to get smarter at. And then I realized how you feed your gut is directly correlated to how you think. So within 90 days, man, I was desiring my wife again. I was holding her hand. I went from the caveman to a proud man, looking myself in the mirror, and leading my kids and taking time with them. And so all of that stemmed from Funk. I had recognized I wanted to be the hero to my kids, but I was an absent hero. And I knew at some point I was going to set these standards for them in their life. And I was the moment they put two and two together and they look at my body and they're like, well, dude, you're telling me to do this, but you're not doing it. I was the floor crashes because I don't have a leg to stand on. So I need to constantly be setting standards in my life every single day to raise the bar for myself, but also knowing that kids aren't taught. Habits aren't taught, they're caught. So I just got to kind of lead the way for them. And sure enough, I set a whole routine in place that my kids just observed, and they were 3 and under 1, but now they're 8 and 5, and it's like this is the version they know of Dad, and so it's worked out.
Yeah, dads, if you're listening right now, man, you said it best, Dane. It's like it's caught, right? It's not taught. Like they see everything you're doing, right?
Yeah.
And they see everything, and I remember one of my brothers was one of the guys in the program. They're like, yeah, one day I was downstairs and I just heard this bouncing upstairs. And I'm like, what the hell is my kid doing? And he snuck upstairs and opened the door. And the kid he had one of my workouts in, because Dad does my workouts, and he's doing push-ups and he's doing burpees. And it's just like,
it's
so
like
awesome. 9 years old or something. It's just like,
yes.
Oh my God, what are you doing? It's like, well, I'm doing what you do, Dad. Like and that was a powerful moment for him, because he realized that, oh shit, okay, this is what's happening when I'm doing this stuff. So let's go into what you did now, because now 2020, what did you do? I know you were talking about 3 years, but let's break it down, man. Let's break it down to bite-sized chunks of what you did to transform your body.
Like, I guess when I would look in the mirror, I didn't see who I wanted to be. So I just stopped associating with that every day. Like, I didn't want to worry about the scale, and because I knew motivation was fleeting, right? So if you're progressing a little bit, but sooner or later the motivation's going to go away. So I knew I need to have a set of standards and kind of non-negotiables in my day that regardless of what I saw, it was going to raise my vibration and make me feel good about myself. And I knew if I did these every day, I was going to get to where I wanted to go. It may take 6 months, it may take 3 months, it may take 3 years, but every day I was going to be a better person because of these. And so that kind of meant 5 daily non-negotiables for me that I incorporated. One of them was getting up early, like before my family. It started to be at 30 minutes before, and then it went to an hour, and now I'm up 3:30, 4 o'clock every day, which is 2.5, 3 hours for Dane time. I did that because my thoughts were so negative that I was always on my heels. And it was like, well, wait till Daddy gets his coffee, or keep it down. Daddy's sleeping, And I was like, I don't want my kids remembering this, like cranky ass old man. So I knew I need to be ready to receive them. So that started with getting up early and getting myself right. So 1 is I started waking up early. 2 is I noticed, all right, I'm up early, but now I had all this alone time, and I started playing the wheels of all the negative self-talk. And I was like, this isn't good. So I started like, all right, I got to be able to control that. So I started reading books and started incorporating other beliefs and stronger ways of looking at things. And a Wayne Dyer quote that I always use is, you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So I really started to adapt and realize the power of the mind in this transformation. It was more about the mind control than it was body control. I can control the mind, I can't control the body. Right? And so I knew if I can control my thoughts and how I respond to things, I'm going to be a better man for the day, better father, a better business leader, better husband. So the second thing I did was every day I started reading 10 minutes a day of a book that was going to kind of get me in the right frame. And then the third thing was I said, okay, now I'm elevated. I need to get the hell up and go sweat. Like I needed to raise my endorphins. I was always in a low vibration state when I woke up, and I started realizing the power of higher frequency. Right? And so I started going to the gym and raising my frequency, raising my vibration. I always came out a different person 100% of the time after 45 or 60 minutes in that gym. And I felt good about myself. And then I was ready to receive my family. I was a completely different person. So that was 3. And then the 4th thing was I needed to live the lifestyle. For me, I chose macro-based meal plan, because I like the ability of the meal, the frequency of the meals. They were these micro goals and guardrails that I can have throughout my day. Where with the fasting and the keto and the paleo and the carnivore, like you could not eat 16 hours, but I noticed like my mood and my energy fluctuated and my attitude was different. And I would have these highs and lows. Where here I said, like, if I have these micro goals, like, okay, I woke up early, I got the right information in my brain. Now I got a training session in. To avoid being cranky in 4 hours, I need to make sure I have another goal. So I would set those meals up, like 4 or 5 meals a day. So I always was able to kind of hit that target and say, all right, goal hit. Fuel has been consumed. Be where your feet are, go into a block of work. 4 hours, you got a chance to do it again. So those micro goals for me were hitting those meals. They help support my physical, my body composition, and they help give me the energy I needed throughout the day. And they kept me balanced. Like my thoughts and my equilibrium were balanced. So that was kind of 4. And then the 5th one was eventually pulling out all vices like alcohol, weed, and porn. those were things that were just so detrimental to my internal system. Like when I would do it, I'd realize like, here I am creating this new version of myself, but I'm still incorporating old habits from old Dane. And every time I did it, I felt terrible. So I pulled all that stuff out. And when I did, it was every day. It was like, you did it, right? So one day turned into two turned into three, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And it was like a couple of weeks later, I was a different person because I was showing up for myself. And I was finally, after almost 10 years, doing the shit that I said I wanted to do, but never got around to doing it. And I was doing it the right way. And so those micro goals just compounded, man. And I went from 30% body fat, autoimmune issues, super depressed, like not a very pleasant person to be around, to 6% body fat. Like I've shifted from 175 of 30% body fat to like 168 at 6% body fat. So I kind of changed that whole body composition and it became a lifestyle for me. And then my kids obviously are super interested in like, Daddy, I got my workout, you got your workout. My wife is super fit. So it led my family on this journey of like, hey, Dad's leading the way. And, you know, they didn't necessarily understand it the first month or so. It was just like, I didn't tell them, like, I wasn't one of these guys that was like, you're going to see, I'm going to be jacked and everyone's going to, you're following me around here and, you better watch out. It was like, I just put my head down and I did the work and I was like, somebody sooner or later is going to recognize, but either way, I'm doing this for me. And so that was it. I went on that journey of really personal development, but I used training and nutrition as pieces of the puzzle to build myself up.
Yeah, no, this is incredible. That whole day, the 5 things that you have, like the very first thing, which was, the non-negotiable the non-negotiables, right? Like setting up those non-negotiables are key. We talk about that. You cannot compromise, right? Like not compromising. Like I don't compromise for anybody. Like nobody, like sometimes not even my wife I don't compromise for, because I let her know, hey man, remember our value system is health and fitness. Remember that? Well, this is what I've got to do. Cause when we got married, that wasn't our vows. Like I can call you fat, like we never let each other get unhealthy. This is what is in our vows. So, but I don't really have to compromise for my wife. It's everybody else. Like, hey man, it's not happening to this. I got to do this first before I do that. So not compromising for anybody. For Brenda coming in, for Brenda coming in on Wednesdays with the muffins. Brenda's going to come in every Wednesday with muffins and everyone at work is going to have it. But now you're not going to have it. And Brenda's going to be upset at first. But Brenda, listen, I love your muffins. They're great. But right now, muffins aren't good for me. Okay, I can't have those muffins. I'm not going to. But no disrespect. And if you continue to not compromise on those muffins from Brenda, if Brenda wants to be in your life, if Brenda wants to be in the funk game, let's say, then Brenda's going to one day come with 7 muffins and the one special one for the funkster. The one that's, paleo, whatever. It's like gluten-free, it's healthy, because Brenda respects that you don't compromise, that there's non-negotiables. Like, listen, I don't. Like, sorry, Brenda. But Brenda still wants you. Brenda still wants to be part of the life because she respects that. Right? People respect people who don't compromise and have not negotiables. So I love that.
They 100% do.
Yeah, I love the mindset. Like you said workouts, nutrition, but man, I think the mind, what you did in the morning, the reading, that sets the tone for the day. Like I'm just goosebumps all over my body. That is what it is. Like everyone rushes to the workouts and the nutrition because that's the exciting thing. But that only takes you so far. Mind and the non-negotiables, the why are we doing this? Non-negotiables. That's the key. And reading, man, so incredible.
It's 100%, man. Like even with family, like there's guys in our program, like I teach them, like, hey man, if you're looking to have like this summer shred 15, like go on YouTube, watch a program and download it. You'll lose it yourself. Like this is a lifestyle. Like you're adapting a new lifestyle, a new set of beliefs. You're creating a better version of yourself. And there are going to be challenges. Like when you go to your in-laws' house, you go to your parents' house, you go to your friend's house, and you got your own food, or you're sustaining from alcohol, you're not eating the fried stuff. It's because they're uncomfortable, right? And you have to recognize it for what it is. But once they realize that you're not bending, you're not compromising, they'll eventually become curious. And that's how I always know it. When they go from critics to curious, right? From criticizing to curious. And when they go from curious to the curious side, which happens after they realize, like, this son of a bitch isn't bending. Like he's up every morning. He's still eating the goddamn chicken and rice, right? And they're like, all right. So then they start asking you, like, hey, well, how many times do you eat? And why do you eat that instead of that? And I noticed when you have the people being curious, it gives you the ability to influence. And if you're a person who's well-intended and you're on the right mission to change lives, there's your window, right? So if you can be that person in your circle, I always say be the one that creates curiosity in your circle that also connects directly to influence. So you now have the power of influence. So be a well-intended person. Now you can share the things, not only what you do, why you do it, how you do it, but hey, here's the reason, and here's how impactful it's been. And so that went from like me realizing like, dude, this started out as like Dane just fixing Dane, to now I've helped hundreds of men, people in my community, in my neighborhood, in my son's schools, my children, their friends. And I realized like, damn, that test for me was only just for me to go through that experience and now be a testament to other people. Because when you walk into a room and you're a fit, person like you, and you walk in, people are like, this man has standards. Like, what is he doing? And they're
100%.
very curious.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times people look at you in public and are like, what do you do, man? Like, you're a trainer or something?
Well,
Like, and they just start asking. You're like, no, I'm not a trainer. And they start asking, like, how the hell you got all this the veins into this? And so, like, I love that. It was like, yes, this is my zone of genius.
Yeah, I love. Yeah, that's 100% every time, everywhere. It doesn't matter where we go, what country, what. I was in Texas the other day. We were in Texas in the beginning of the year, and I had the cowboy hat and I had the tank top. My wife's like, dude, a cowboy hat and sleeveless, black guy.
Oh yeah,
it's over. And then that's what happened. We're in the stockyards, and you see all the guys just like give. And I don't do it for the props. Believe me, I don't.
You're doing you.
It's kind of like. And then you can see that the respect, is there. Again, I'm not reaching for it, but the respect is there. And then for me, I'm a huggy type of person. So whenever I see a guy that's jacked, I'm always like, oh man, this is awesome. Like you get that appreciation of other guys, because a lot of guys who aren't secure with themselves and they see a big jacked person or just a jacked person in general, because big or small, if you are muscular, you look massive. They're always like, oh, look at this guy, they always get their back up. And I always have to be like,
you got to be extra nice.
I'm just like, like, hey, man, everything's
That's
cool.
right.
You know what I mean? I don't care.
That's right.
I don't care. Right? Everything's cool, man. Everything is cool.
Yeah.
And then it opens up the door for them to be like, oh, okay, this guy's actually cool. He's not a douche.
Right.
He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
All right. You know what I mean? Because I don't care. I mean, if you want me to help you, I care. But
yeah.
Listen, man, like, you do you. You do
That's
you.
right. I'm not judging you. You do you.
No.
And then they realize you're a nice guy. I remember in my church, there's this one other guy. He's super jacked. The first time he saw me, I could see him staring at me, and I'm walking with my family. And then he just yells out. He's like, hey, man, why don't you save some muscles for the rest of us? And, I just lost it. My son was like, what are you just saying, Alan? And I was like, man, that's a guy just being super nice.
Yeah, totally.
But he was super confident in himself.
Yeah.
And we built this relationship, and that's like the biggest thing. And then also, like, you'll see these people that are overweight and they're a little insecure and they're staring at you, and then you just kind of extend yourself to them, and they feel like, oh, he's not judging me, he's just a nice guy.
100%.
Yeah, that's what I love about it. It's like, and then you give them a window, like, hey, man, follow me or reach out to me, and I got you. And some people that are ready for it, when they're ready, the teacher will arrive, and then there's your window.
I love it. You said something, again, that was huge, is like when they're ready for it, because I get a lot of guys, as you probably do, who are like, yeah, my brother's out of shape, or my cousin or my friend. How do I get him in here? And let me, I'm just going to, how would you answer that question? So how do I, my brother, he's out of shape, my cousin, I've got this guy across the street, he's always looking at me. How do I get him into the program? What would you say to that?
Yeah, I would say, well, I mean, he's got to be ready for sure, so it's always like, well, does he recognize he has a problem, right? Because for the first step in being like, recognize you're an alcoholic is recognizing you got a problem. Mm-hmm. So it's like, if they recognize they have a problem, then, hey, have them start consuming some content, or give them my YouTube page, and I'll just direct people like, hey, watch this. And if it resonates and you feel like, hey, this is talking to you and you're ready, like, then we'll have a conversation, because then you've got to commit. That's the big piece of it, right?
Yeah.
So one is kind of making sure, like, hey, they're aware that they do have a problem, and two, they have a burning desire to change that. Like, that's a big piece, brother. Like, because you have to have a deep why. Like I always say, like, some guy said it to me a long time ago, but your why should make you cry, right? And I think that that's so powerful. It's like, yeah, it should. Like anytime I talk about my why, it's like, it's so deep that you're willing to go through the pain, the sacrifice, the discipline, the compromises, because it's always worth it. And so when you can take somebody like guys will drop 30 pounds. Like I posted a story on my Instagram today, like this is a husband of my wife's cousin. This guy came kicking and screaming, right? He's been doing CrossFit forever. He's super overweight. He did not want to come in the program. His wife paid for him. And I was like, well, he's got to do the work. You can pay for him, but he's got to do the work. And he bitched and moaned every day, right? Whether it was the meals or the overtraining or all this shit. But he's less than it. Finally, he realized his wife is going to make him stay the course, and I wasn't going to give up on him. And he's like 82 days in. He's down 30 pounds. He's now going to compete for his first CrossFit competition. He's just like, he's turning that corner, you know? So it's like he knew he needed to change. He didn't necessarily want it, but his wife gave him the push. She said, no, I want you to do this, and maybe said, you need to do this. And sure enough, like he just realized, well, the guy, I wasn't giving up on him. I stayed every day, contact, how we doing, log your weight, what's your struggles, let's make some adjustments. It kind of pulled him up the hill a little bit. But once he got a little bit of momentum and he saw, shit, this is actually working. The weight's coming off. The energy's getting better, right? The attitude's a little more positive. Then he started, hey, what supplements should I get? And should I get this one or that? And he became, totally ingrained in it. And so I'm super proud of him.
It's great to have a coach who doesn't give up on you. I'm in recovery, right? Many years in recovery. So like,
are you?
Oh yeah. Because when I was 39, and I had this whole issue with my body. Well, it was everything. What happened was 39. I'm not feeling the same. Everything's just basically the same kind of story that you're saying. But I'm still posting on YouTube. I'm doing all these things, and then I come home one day, and the girl that I was living with left me. Like literally, she had her bags packed and she left. Like because we weren't having sex. She literally said, "Listen, I need sex. We're not having sex. You're not giving me sex. I'm out." And that crushed me. And another incident that happened around that same time was like, oh man, my training partner's like, hey, you're the hardest working guy in this gym. You come in here 6 days a week. You're in here for an hour and a half, and your body hasn't changed. Isn't it so frustrating? And that was really, obviously I got defensive. So I go home. I finally look at my body. I see where it is. The girl just left me. And that just sent me down a very deep hole. I tried to work out more, then I got injured. I tried the Atkins diet, like all of these diets. I'm 55, so
I want everything against the wall.
Yeah, I want everything. Nothing's working. And then I just resorted to, she doesn't want to have sex with me? Well, I'm going to start hanging out in strip joints. I'm going to start hanging out at after hours. I'm going to start doing drugs. I'm going to start going to here. I was like deep because I wanted to mask my man. Well, I was masking my manhood by putting myself in all the debauchery and then putting myself in very compromising positions. You're in the after 12 o'clock, there's nothing good happening. So if you're in the street at 2 or 3, or you're in after hours or booze can or strip joints or prostitutes or whatever, nothing good's happen. So that I was deep in drugs. And then when I went to the doctor, he told me it was my testosterone levels that were causing all of these things. That's when the switch flipped and I started to do things, again, like you, trying to work out, changing my workouts, nutrition, what have you. But also that led me into recovery because obviously when you're an addict, once too many is 1,000 never enough, right? Like you're just going deep. So having somebody, the reason why this, having somebody, a coach or somebody who never gives up on you is really key because even though you're kicking and screaming, you have one person from behind pushing you up, you have another person pulling you up. The fact that you have somebody that's still there is so important for guys because us men, we have so much pride, so much ego, so much like, I don't want to feel weak. I don't need help. I don't need this. Oh, this guy's going to help me. What can he do for me? You know what I mean? And it's like, dude, we need help. We have no ego. We got to get rid of all the baggage that happened to us when we were younger because at our age, I'm 55. Gen X, man, we didn't have phones and
we all are dealing with our inner child.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that happened to a lot of us when we were younger that we haven't dealt with that sabotages a lot of things we do today.
100%.
But being able to go, okay, listen, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm 42, 50, whatever it is. I got to get help because we're fast tracking to our deathbed, but having somebody who's there with you for you no matter what, that's so important, man. Like what you're doing is incredible, you know?
Thank you, man. Yeah, that was the thing. I was super alone, and I couldn't tell my wife all these thoughts that I was having because I was so insecure, right? And that was just seeping everywhere in our marriage. And luckily, she literally bought a book, the Power of the Praying Wife. And I just watch her read this book in silence, and I'm thinking, is she praying for me? Like, there's nothing wrong with me, you know what I mean? Like, you're the problem. Like, you should be praying for you, you know? And and then eventually I switched, and I was like, I think I need these prayers, you know? Like, because I was also doing that. I was falling into vices. I was smoking more weed. I was drinking more, and then the aggression would come out, and the anger would come out, and then we wouldn't have sex, and I'd be like, well, and then I'm thinking, like, who the hell would want to have sex with me after that? Like, I became like a different person. And then my kids would see me arguing with my wife, and then I'd wake up in this state where I remembered the fight from last night, and it starts over again. And bro, this just kind of went on where it was like this season that we went through, and then I realized, like, I'm the common denominator, you know? But that was also a very lonely point for me. One, because we had a 3-year-old and my other child who was under 1 year old. My wife took care of them. Like, I didn't change diapers. I didn't get up in the middle of the night. She was like, you run the business. You make that successful. I got this. So that meant her time was always with the kids. So that meant putting them to bed at night and having a nighttime routine. And half the time she'd fall asleep in the bedroom with them. And I'd be out there just fucking huffing and puffing like, is she going to come out here? Is she just going to leave me alone again? And the thoughts would start going crazy, you know? And like, she'd come out, and then it was like a dragon would unleash on her. Like, what do you mean? You know? And it was like, and then I realized, like, the common denominator is me. But I didn't want to tell my friends this. Like, I'm not having sex with my wife. I'm super insecure, right? I didn't want to tell anybody these things. So I was so alone. And that's when I realized that demise became also the breaking point of, like, that's the problem you're solving for. You need to get so comfortable being alone that you don't need the compliment. You don't need the sex. Anything you chase runs. You'll never fucking catch it, I realized. Totally. And so I realized I need to be a man that's not chasing anything. I need to be a man that's so proud of myself that she's going to desire me. She'll only have eyes for me, right? That I'm comfortable in my own skin. And so that I went out to set out to build that person, right? So that every time we walked into a restaurant, another man walked in that was halfway decent looking. I wasn't like, she looking at this motherfucker, you know, like, what's going on, you know? And even though she wasn't, I would start playing the tape. And it was all because I didn't feel good in my skin. And that's like, men don't realize that that's this loop that you get caught in. And you're not having an outlet to share that with other guys. So when I went on the journey of personal development and using training and fitness as a tool for that, I didn't have a coach. I did it by myself. But every day it was like, I have the habits. I just got to get better at the habits. Because if I execute these habits, I was proud. And I was a better person to be around. Then eventually I got more information, became more competent. The more competent I was, the more confident I was. And then eventually I hired coaches. But even then, I would get pissed off at them because I'd send them like weekly pictures of my underwear and take these fucking pictures and all that, you know? And I'm like, this dude didn't get back to me in 4 days. Like, doesn't he care about my transformation? And then I had to do that work again, right? Like, hey, control how you respond. It's not up to him. How do you feel? Did you do the work? He'll get back to you when he gets back to you. But anyway, that leads to me saying why, when I set out to go and build this other business, Dad Bod Sculptors, it was like, I want to be the person that I needed. That's who I want to be for men. I want to be the person that I needed on my journey from day one. I want to let these guys know, hey, from 4 a.m. to 9 o'clock at night when I shut my phone off, I'm available to you. You're literally one message away. If it's your wife that you're dealing with, if it's a work situation, if you're stuck in the food store, I got you, bro. That's what I'm here for. Like, this is my purpose. And I can't tell you how fulfilling that is for me. I could be in a funk and somebody texts me, like, it's like being of service and delivering that person to them has been the biggest passion play of my life. Like the recruiting firm, 10x money-wise, and I was like, I gave that to my wife. I was like, this is my mission, you know? Like, this is my mission, is to go help these men. I went through this for a reason, and I need to now deliver myself and my experience to them. And so that's one of the biggest things, is making myself available so that they know you're not on an island, man. We're going to do this thing together. And we're going to do it until your family becomes supportive, until they realize you're not going to compromise, until you get around the bend and you start seeing those changes. Because there's always different levels to this thing, right? You're always leveling up, and there's lots of plateaus. And usually when you plateau, it's like, hey, is this working? Like, why am I compromising and having all this discipline, and you kind of start throwing the plans out, and then you give up on yourself. So it's like, no, we're not giving up. And so it's basically was built from my pain of like, I had to do it alone, and I wanted to make sure that I can give that to other people.
Wow, that's great. That's amazing. Yeah, the you better be careful though what you're saying, because I'm sure when people are listening to this podcast, you're gonna get a flood of people wanting you to be their coach. I don't do one-on-one coaching like that. My program is more on a membership side, but I do have people who ask me about that. But I can't do that. But that is very, very important what you're doing. So let's just talk about some of the struggles that dads have, and why, coming to someone like you, which I think is amazing, can help them not just transform. Because right now, what I'm hearing and why I love this conversation we're having and so passionate about it is not just the body, right? Like we've most of this conversation has been about the development, the growth, the self-development 2.0.
Yeah.
In our program, we have the alpha purpose, right? Provide, protect, procreate. That's what we're put on this earth to be, the king of our kingdom.
That's right.
The king of our kingdoms.
I love that. It's sick.
Yeah, and it's more than just the body. It's like, if we have to do a lot of work.
Yeah.
Work that's healthy and it's good and sometimes difficult, but man, it's more than just the body. And of course, yes, we want to be healthy because we're the unhealthiest we've ever been. But dads struggle with certain things. Like my sons they're men, so I don't understand what the fathers nowadays will struggle with. What are some of the biggest struggles that they have, and how do you help them through those?
Yeah, so one of them is always time. I don't have enough time, right? Because they're being pulled in so many directions. And honestly, I always tell guys, this is not your fault you ended up like this. Like when I eventually got to the other side, I looked through a different lens, and I had a lot of grace with myself. It was like I stepped into a role where I had to be a provider. I had to be a protector. I had to be a husband. I had to be a father. I had to plan vacations. I had to buy new cars. I had to get better houses, right? And oh, by the way, I need to have a good body. And then the body piece was like, you go on the internet and there's so many different types of diets. There's so many different styles of training. It's like, that's a job within a job, right? To figure out like what's optimal for me and how do I incorporate that in the little bit of time that I have. So one of the problem that I wanted to solve was like, all right, if I have 45, 50, 60 minutes, maybe an hour and a half on some days, and I want to walk out and people know this guy fucking works out, because that was also a thing. I was like, I want to be taking 60 minutes a day away from my family, away from my business. I want people to recognize this dude fucking works out, right? Because after I made an initial transformation, I looked like everybody else in the gym, and I was like, no, I'm not satisfied with this. Now I just look like an average Joe. I just don't look like an obese one. And so for me, it was like, how do you optimize that time? So it's helping them understand their busy schedule and then structuring when we can carve that time out for ourselves. And generally, it's always kind of taking guys away from this. A lot of them are up late, so it's teaching them, hey, we're going to start this morning routine. We're going to instill these 5 daily non-negotiables for you, and we start to shift their schedule, give them a nighttime protocol so they unwind earlier, and then sure enough, they find the time, because now they're getting up before their family, and they've got some time for themselves. So time is always one. 2 is knowledge. Like they don't know what they don't know. And when you don't know something, and that means you lack belief. And if you lack belief, you don't put energy behind it because you're not convicted, right? So it's 2, telling them exactly what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. But then the 4th piece is why you're doing it, like educating them, right? Here's what you're going to train today, when you're going to train it, and how you're going to train it. And here's why we're training it this way, right? Here's what you're going to eat, when you're going to eat it, how much of it you're going to eat, and why we're eating this, right? So teaching them the training style that's optimal to make sure that we continue to build the foundation of muscle so you feel manly. You don't end up in this skinny fat body where you just get the weight off, but you build that muscle. 2, feed yourself properly so that you have no digestion issues, you have no inflammation, right? You have no spikes in your insulin levels, that you're steady and your body is responding positively to the food. Because a lot of us, after the age of 40, you know this, like our body all of a sudden becomes a storage unit. And everything we fucking take goes right to the waistline. And so what we have to do is teach them over a 2 to 4 week period how to transition it from a storage unit to a furnace, right? And so that comes down with some education. And then 3 is accountability. Like nobody holds them accountable or sets standards for them. And like you said earlier in the podcast, like the world is trying to get people to accept the dad bod. And that's just bullshit, right? So people have now, like men have just given up this thing of like, oh, I don't even need to be fit because the dad bod's sexy. But oh, my wife still has to keep it tight and right. She still better make sure that she looks good, right? Or we start to chit chatter about Barb, Barb at the pool and how hot she looks or this way. And so now your eyes are off of your wife and on all these other people lusting where they shouldn't be. But if you put that energy into yourself and you develop yourself, your wife is going to develop herself and you're both going to invest in each other. And so that becomes this really powerful unit of like, you only have eyes for each other because you're constantly working on self. And then you put that energy towards your partner. So your sex life gets better, right? Your relationship gets better. Like all of that gets better. So for the short answer is time, it's knowledge, and it's accountability. Those are the kind of the top 3. And then the motivation piece we take away. Like guys like, oh, I'm not motivated. I'm like, I'm not motivated either to get up at 4 a.m, right? Like it's just nobody's really motivated. But when you set these routines in place and you realize every day I reset, every day I got a new chance to get up early, every day I got a chance to hit my meals, and you slowly make your evaluation based on execution of an action plan and mastering the plan, then all of a sudden every day you find yourself, hey, I won today, right? I won today. And I can pat myself on the back. And that's how you transition from kind of old self to new self.
Yeah, those 4 things you said there, time, knowledge, accountability, and motivation. Motivation being if you have all those other 3 in place, then you'll get that motivation. Are definitely the 3. And I just did a survey, actually. And in that survey, the top 3 in that survey were time, knowledge, like I don't know what to do. I need motivation. Accountability. Those were the 4. So I'm so happy that you said that because it's across the board. It's across the board. Those are the 4 things. But we have the answers. Like you have the answers. You just laid out what those answers are. And the one thing you said that it's funny is when you accept the dad bod, right? You're accepting it because you're looking around social media. Everyone's, freaking, what's his name? Leonardo DiCaprio's on a beach and he's got a dad bod. But what you don't realize is Leonardo is the reason why he's got a dad bod is because he's got a movie coming up, and in that movie's got to be overweight and out of shape. But you guys are thinking that's how he rolls. But generally, he may roll differently. He rolls with a great body and what have you. But you hang on to that. But here's the thing about your wife. When the kids leave, and she looks at you, and then she goes out to her workouts and whatever. Then don't forget, there's her trainer, Leroy. Big brother Leroy is telling her every day how good she looks.
That's right.
Brenda, Barb, you look good, girl. You're looking good. You're looking good. She's walking down the street. Everyone else is telling you how good she looks. She comes home to you. You got nothing to say. You're there doing whatever you do, the vices or whatever, not doing the work. And then she looks and goes, man, I didn't sign up for this. I'm 50 whatever years old. The kids are gone. I can't. Hey man, I got Delroy at the gym there. He's loving me, right? Like we see a lot of that happening. We see a lot of guys like, oh my God, my wife just left me. What happened, right? Yeah. And
then they want to transform. And I'm like, well, if you would have did that when you were with her, dude, you still have her.
Totally. Yeah. So yeah, that whole thing of the dad bod is not cool. The thing of being accountable to yourself and getting that daily reset, that motivation that will come because you're seeing the transformation is so important. And then as a father, let's finish off with as a father, because what does all this mean to you, to the dads, right? Like what does this mean, this transformation, this taking care of yourself, the 2.0 as a father? What does that mean?
It honestly, it's become, this wasn't what I set out to be, but I've become their hero. Like the standard is there, right? So I know that they're not going to somebody else's house and being like, why doesn't daddy look like Johnny's dad, right? Or like I've set the standard so high that they hold me to it. If I eat off of a meal plan, they're like, Dad, you're going to lose your abs. You shouldn't eat that, right? So like they want me to remain this level because now they see that this is the standard. So when you become their hero and everything that they see through that lens, like, it's very powerful. Like you're always going to be their hero up until they start really understanding the world. And they're like, well, you're kind of subpar here. You know, like eat whatever you want. Yeah, you may provide a good life, but like you don't really hold any standards when it comes to like your health and nutrition. So when you set that standard, they recognize like this guy's different. Like my dad is different and he's my hero. So I was always wanted to be that for them, like being a guide for them, but a healthy guide, letting them know like dad does this for these reasons and I show up this way for you and I'm dependent, you're dependent on me because I do these things for myself. You can always rely on me. So that was like the key thing, is becoming their hero. And all their friends in the neighborhood come over and like, Mr. Dane, let me see your biceps. Mr. Dane, show me your abs, you know? And it's like, I don't feel, now I know they go back to their dads and they say that, right? And it's like, how does that make their dad feel? Like, oh, you should see Presley's dad, you know? Like, he's got all these muscles. Like, my son was in class, right, the other day, and I know that this is an experience, but my clients have these same experiences where now their kids are doing what they're doing because the habits are taught, are caught, not taught. But like the teacher was talking about, if you exercise, this was just like a lesson in the school year. If you exercise, you're going to be a healthy person. And if you don't exercise, you're going to be tired and you're not going to be a healthy person. And one of the kids yells out, well, you should see Presley's dad, you know? And so Presley, my son, was like so proud. So you give your kid a chance, right, to be proud of you. And I think if you have their respect, and I mean, as a dad, that's the greatest thing in the world. Totally. Not all kids respect their dad. You may love them, but you don't necessarily respect them because, you know, some of the life decisions they've made. So you got to set the standard higher. You've got to raise it in your own life. And if you can't do it, you got to get around people who require you to raise that bar.
Wow. That's, just think of how Presley feels every time his friends come over to see your abs or, you know, flex or whatever, or how Presley feels when that kid says, you should see Presley's dad. Like, that feeling is so empowering to a kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. I mean, as a kid, I grew up like, if somebody would have said, and you should see Dane's parents, I would have crumbled because I wasn't that proud of them. I would always hide because we lived in an area that was outside our means. We were always kind of behind on monthly bills. We always just scraping, you know, like we would even have our mom drop us off like further away from school so they didn't have to see the car that we got dropped off in. So like if somebody mentioned my parents, even said like Dane's parents, I would have probably like, oh shit, what do they know? You know? And so you know, a lot of kids have that where you just like, your parents didn't necessarily set the bar high enough in their own life. Of course, now my parents gave me empathy. They gave me a great heart. They gave me the ability to love people unconditionally, all those great qualities. But there were a lot of qualities that I learned from them that I said, I need to be the complete opposite. So for me, when my son comes down and tells me that the first week of school, like, you know, Daddy, like he said, you should see Presley's dad's muscles and the teacher was saying this. And it was like, I knew like he was so proud to say that. And dude, it's like, you're right there. You're like, I work hard tomorrow. You know, I showed up today and I do it again tomorrow.
That's your motivation.
Life gives you, life gives you those things along the way where it's like you're on the right track. And you know internally, man, when you're not on the right track, like your conscience is telling you, like, there's a better version of me and I'm either going to settle. If you're 40, it's like you're telling yourself you're comfortable in that body for 30 more years. Like, come on, man. You've got to be able to recognize, like, I got 30, 35 more years in this body. It's never too late. I can start this journey and be around the other corner really, really quickly. And then they'll never remember this old version. Totally. You'll use that old version as your pain.
Yes, exactly. And that's a great segue. Yeah. And you know, you're I just want to say this too, just because sometimes people think, well, yeah, maybe that just happened because it's you, Dane, or it's your program. But I have similar stories as well. So again, when a father actually changes and becomes ripped, healthy, whatever, it doesn't have to be ripped, but you know, like one of our guys, same thing. He's like, yeah, the other day I was at the park and my son's, and I had taken my shirt off for the first time at the park. It's hot. And, you know, he's got a 6-pack and there were kids on this, I guess, not the Ferris wheel, you know, the thing that we used to spin around and what have you. And then literally the one kid stopped and went, oh my God, look at the muscles on that guy. You know, who's that guy? And you know, he said that's my dad. It's like, oh my God, your dad, whatever. And then the father, like that just hit him because he saw the look on his son that he's never seen before. I'm going to probably cry here. Yeah. And he started crying. Yes. Right? Like the father started crying. He's like, oh my God, are you kidding me right now? Like, this is like, I want to bottle up this moment.
Yeah.
take this in and like, this is like, okay, there's that why. Here's another why. You know what I mean? We also have many whys that change, as we change too.
Yes.
But man, I'm telling you, men who are fathers or men in general, but we're talking Dad Bod Sculptor here, it is worth every penny. And, I what do you call it? I endorse, Dane. I just met you. But everything you're saying, all of your philosophy, your mindset, the transformation focus, the time you put into your program and the people who are in your program, the men who are in your program, changing these lives, because it's not easy, guys, right? Like, it's not easy. That's why we're here. Like, it's not easy because
simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah, we had to go through the crap. Like, I was doing the kettlebell 300 workout literally every day in my garage when I was going through my transformation, because I was a fitness guy and I didn't really know, but I'm just doing the same workout every day and metabolic training, what have you. But we went through all of that so that you guys can now have the blueprint to transformation.
Yes.
And having the blueprint, having the knowledge, and then having a coach like Dane at Dad Bod Sculptures is huge, man. I'm telling you, if there's anyone listening to this right now that needs, more one-on-one coaching to get through a hump or whatever, Dane, you're the man. So because you're the man, how do people get in touch with you?
The best way is you can go dadbodsculptors.com, which is my website, and there's a bunch of different things on there to give you more information to consume my content on YouTube. Check out my Instagram page. You can find me on LinkedIn, which is a major platform that I've been on for the last 14 years, running my headhunting firm and this firm. So dadbodsculptors.com is probably the best place, and that'll direct you to my socials where you can consume my content and also reach out to me directly if you need to.
Okay, let me just ask you another question about your programming, if you don't mind. What is it like? So if I'm okay, I'm listening to this. Okay, Funk, great. Dane, yes, I'm in. Let me go online. Where do I start? And what could they expect from your program?
Yeah. So the first thing is we would book, they have the ability to book a call through the website, a strategy chat. So we just get on the phone and we talk about kind of where they are, what their schedule is, what their goals are, what their challenges are, and see if it's a good fit. Like, because I work one-on-one with everyone's not a good fit. I turn a lot of guys down. I'm like, hey, here's a better solution for you. Go here, watch this video. Like, this is going to get you there. But guys that are truly a good fits, where it merits the one-on-one time, then we unpack it, right? Like, there's a big onboarding form where they're going to understand kind of their training, their exposure to equipment, their nutrition, their food preferences, their digestion, their sleep, all these key metrics, because we give our guys a whoop. So we track the data so that we can help manage the data as well. And then when they're onboarded, we tell them exactly what to train, when to train, how long to train it, what to eat, when to eat, how long to eat it. We give them a supplement protocol, because now that they're eating the right things and training the right way, we're actually now in a position to absorb the vitamins and minerals that we put in our body. If you're not there, then you're just changing your pee color, right? You're not getting any of the absorption of those vitamins. So we want to make sure they're doing the first two right, and then we hit them with the supplements. And then the third thing is guys always want to increase their muscle and reduce their body fat. So we give them a very strategic cardio protocol. So we have kind of those four pillars: the training, the nutrition, the supplementation, and the cardio. So they know exactly what to do, and it all gets delivered in my custom app where they go right on their phone and they see exactly what they need to do. And then within that app, they've got the ability to message me every day. And outside of that, some guys are more independent. Every Friday, they do a check-in. So they know every single Friday, they're going to check in with me. They're going to give me a lot of information on how they slept, how they recovered, what their digestion was like, where their soreness was, what their energy was like. And then we calibrate. So it's not one of these set it and forget it plans where it's like they sign up and 90 days later we check in. Every week, we're making adjustment on training, adjustment on nutrition. So we're constantly seeing progress. The scale's going down, the energy's going up, the attitude's getting better. And if we hit a roadblock where somebody throughout the week was stuck, it's either we can pinpoint, hey, was this a compliance issue? Was this a recovery issue? Is this a nutrition issue? And so that gives guys the belief of like the effort, that the little bit of time that I have that I'm putting into this, I know that the effort is actually producing the fruit that I want. Because that's the biggest thing. We don't have a lot of time, right? Which is the number one excuse. But if you know I'm putting this time in and I'm actually getting the result, then we tend to make more time for that and put more energy behind it. So that was a big piece of where guys come in and they're like, they start really taking on this. They take control of the process really within 2 to 3 weeks, because they start seeing the progress that's happening. And it's like, I've been trying to get this 10 pounds off for 8 years, man. And it's happening like that. It's surreal. So that's the gift that we love giving them. And I was like you were saying before, like when you go back to the dad thing, like the same way a kid acts when he sees a supercar, right? And a lot of guys can't afford supercars. Maybe one day some of you guys can. Is the same way they respond when they see a fit guy, right, with abs. Like they're like, they have to sit there. They're like, "What is this guy?" Like kids came up to me, and the first time I did this, I went to a pool and I took my shirt off and I'm walking my son to the slide, right? And I had been just head down into this journey. I wasn't recognizing anything. I was just in the habits. And all of a sudden, these group of teenagers just stopped, right? And they were like, "Oh my God, are you Mr. Olympia?" And my son, like, it just so happened, like, the way that God works, it was a gift to me. Yeah. I got emotional. I literally cried that night because it was like, I got over this barrier of, like, I finally have created this person. But my son had been watching me watch these videos, and I was watching Chris Bumstead and Nick Walker and Derek Lunsford, this Mr. Olympia. So he actually knew what the hell a Mr. Olympia was. Because I was telling him, Daddy's going to be a bodybuilder. I want to be like these guys. And when they said that, his like teenagers, cool kids, he lit up. And right there, I knew I'd become his hero. And it was like, bro, it literally was like, it stuck me in the heart, but in such a positive way. It was like, I got the supercar. You know, I got the supercar.
That's it, man. That's mic drop. Yeah. Come on, man. Where's the Kleenex? I got.
You're not gonna make me cry, Roy.
No, I'm doing it.
Yeah. Remember that from Jerry Maguire?
No, hey, you know what? That's a good one. I think I'm gonna start doing that. I think I'm gonna start making people cry.
That's right. Yeah.
You're not gonna make me.
You're not gonna make me cry.
This has been amazing, man. I really enjoyed meeting you, speaking to you. I love what you're doing, man. I'm 100% gonna, endorse this. I think, because it's something that I don't provide, but I know there's a lot of guys in my programming and, that would love this. And just based on the time, knowledge, accountability, motivation being the struggles and you having the answer to that, man, this is, you're a godsend, my brother. You're a godsend. Thank you so much.
I'm so blessed to be out here. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely.